This broadcast from the Matrix Midwest Studios is brought to you by New Ground International. It's time to plan, design, and build your future. Start today at newground.com.
Offside Hockey, driven by Weber Automotive Group.
Welcome in to Offside Hockey. That's Chris Kerber. I'm Amy Markscores. And Kerbs, how's the road treating you so far?
You know what? Not bad, Amy. We're in Philadelphia. Man, it was a long trip last night. Like, literally, I think the game ended around 10 o'clock. And by the time I was getting into the hotel room, it was like 2. So, longer trip. The team practiced today at the Philadelphia Flyers practice rink, and then we'll take on the Flyers tomorrow. So, a decent start, not a great one. There was a game maybe for the taking again yesterday in Toronto. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. But, you know, this is a long road trip, a 5-game, 10-day road trip for the Blues, and they've got to start making some hay. This can define whether they stay in a race or fall out of it.
Yeah, and I heard Joey Vitale talking earlier that when you go on a road trip, you have your travel day, and until you play that first game, the trip kind of drags. You got to get the first game under your belt.
Yeah, you know, there's the psychological aspect of sports here, and that is true. You get the one practice day, dinner tonight, sleep, game tomorrow, go, practice day, travel to Long Island, play on Saturday, day off Sunday, play on Monday. You know, they'll get into a routine. They haven't had this. I mean, there's only been 3 road trips of 2 games so far this season. So, you know, a longer road trip here hopefully is something that they needed to get into a routine, get rid of some of the noise, and start playing some better hockey.
Well, speaking of... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Well, I was going to say, let's jump into the 3 stars, speaking of playing better hockey.
That's right. I am excited about this guy. I mean, you talk about positive notes that you've got to find. Matthew Joseph is one of them. He's got that pinball factor, Kerbs, that I like to see. He brings the energy. It's not only that he's skating into the hard corners, fighting for those one-on-one puck battles, but also following up shots. He's just there. He's in the play.
You know, he had a tough season last year in his first season with the Blues. He came in camp in great shape. I think right from the start of training camp through the game last night, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find a forward that's brought more consistency. Actually, you're not going to be hard-pressed. You're not going to find a forward other than Jake Neighbors that has brought more consistency for what you expect out of his game. North-south game, use your speed, get in on it. And I know, you know, he was scratched a couple games ago. There's a scenario here where you've got Bugstad, you've got Texier, you've got Walker, you've got Joseph. They're trying to find chemistry. They're trying to find identity, you know. But I tell you, I like the smoothness of his game. You know, he's got a couple of goals, as we just saw in the season. He's making some plays. He's making some hits. His north-south style game, I thought, was really good last night in Toronto. And that's why he's our number 3 star of the week. The Blues need more players like Matthew Joseph to play a consistent game for what is expected of their game. We're not expecting the same offensive output from Matthew Joseph that you expect from Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou, Holloway, and that grouping. But when you expect that kind of offensive output, you need that on a consistent basis. What we're getting from Matthew Joseph is great, and I think he's continuing to play well.
His output is energy. It may not be necessarily on the scoreboard. It's energy. He's doing that.
Well, and I talked to Dylan Holloway about him yesterday, and the thing about that Holloway said is it's him, it's Nathan Walker, Jake Neighbors. Those are the 3 players he said that no matter what's been going on with the team in terms of the ups and downs, the wins and losses, and how you might feel, when you come to the rink, those guys are energy. And it's not a psychological thing. They don't change your perspective on something. It's just you see them, they got energy with them, and that part's contagious, and you need players like that on the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kerbs, another player who had a lot of energy come into the rink recently is Hunter Skinner, who made his NHL debut. His parents were in the building. We saw their emotional interview on the broadcast. And what I love about Hunter Skinner and his ability to play defense, and that he got to make that debut recently, is that Coach Jim Montgomery talked about Hunter Skinner all through camp. He stood out to Coach Montgomery. And to stand out as a defenseman, as a rookie, you have to play some pretty solid minutes.
Okay, well, listen, look, there's a lot of different angles to this, and I love him as the number 2 star of the week. I love that story. You make your NHL debut if you're battling the minors for 5 and 6 years. That is a terrific story. First off, the question that you get asked, well, what'd you think of Hunter Skinner in Game 1? Guys, it's Game 1 in the NHL. I don't put anything on it. Now, there are certain aspects of the game that you can break down. But, and I thought as the game went on, you saw Philly able to take advantage of his youthfulness a little bit there. But he's a great story. He was kind of the throw-in, the extra man in that Tarasenko Mikkola trade from New York, and all Hunter Skinner did. That trade moved him. Well, actually, I didn't even ask him this. I got to ask him this, Amy. I don't know if he moved after that trade, because he was playing in Hartford in the American League. That's where the Rangers have their affiliate. The Blues affiliate is in Springfield. It's literally 30 minutes away. It's driving from downtown St. Louis to St. Peter's, right? To Lake St. Louis. And you're going from Springfield to Hartford. He might have been able to stay where he was in Hartford and just drive to Springfield and stay there for the rest of the year. But he continued to go. Well, in the off season, he was working up in Minnesota and skating with guys like Jacob Chikrin. And they have a video coach up there, and Chikrin's bringing in video, and Skinner is studying video and working on things like that. He made himself a player. He made himself a prospect. He made himself a player that they could trade Schuenemann away and bring him in, and then he was the first call-up. If that's not worthy, maybe even number 1 star, but that one's kind of covered in a no-brainer here. But if that story and that effort isn't worthy of a number 2 star, nothing ever will be. Great story this week.
It is, and you brought up how he made himself a player and talking about how well Jim Montgomery spoke of him. You know, you have the beat writers asking, who stood out to you today? Who are you thinking about today? And Jim Montgomery would bring up Hunter Skinner. You also said that, you know, the first game doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it's significant for the player, but it's not illustrative of the rest of the player's career trajectory. And I was chatting with Chris Pronger the other day. I asked him about that Mark Messier quote, that it takes a defenseman 200 games before you know what that defenseman's going to be. And Pronger didn't even let me finish the sentence. He said 300. Yep. Takes 300 games.
That's what Al McInnes has stayed at 300, and I'm actually going to say it takes more than that. Okay? When I look at the growth, you knew you had a great player in Alex Pietrangelo, but you know, look at where the effectiveness, years 6, 7, 8, 9. Same thing with Parayko. You get some that come on the scene like a Cale Makar, you know, and it's bat out of hell, you know, and they're just great from the start. That's not the norm. Having said that, look, it's a great story. It was good that they got him in. It's good that they have him up with the team right now. But the reality of it is, I think they need more experience back there. Jim Montgomery has said he's going to have to give just more trust. Like, he's just going to have to put that third pairing out there. And we saw it with Kessel. We saw it with Tucker. And we've seen it also cost some goals. So this is where the yin and the yang of the coach has to deal with the mental side of this. But it's still a great story when somebody gets that opportunity to play and wear that NHL jersey in a regular season game for the first time.
Yeah.
Which, in a complete contrast of it, leads to our third star. Or our first star, really. Our first star. Forgot we go backwards. How about that guy? Justin Faulk in his 1,000th game in the league. Now, there's only 137 defensemen now, counting Justin, that have played 1,000 games in the league in the 107-year history of the NHL. Solid, steady, stays healthy for the most part, and it was a lot of fun to watch he and his teammates kind of celebrate their 1,000th game of Justin Faulk.
So many times we talk about an athlete and we see their benchmark games, like a 500th game or a 1,000th game, but the amount of skill, what it takes on the body, what it takes mentally, what it takes as a player to have staying power in a professional league really should be the story, because it is so hard to make it to the NHL, to Major League Baseball. There are guys who make it and have a cup of coffee and then they're done. But to have staying power at that elite level when everybody who comes up is trying to take your job, when you have these young guns taking the ice who are skating circles, and you think, okay, well, how can an older player keep up? Justin Faulk has been able to adapt and play and be reliable.
So my favorite part was the team all wore these Justin Faulk 1000 shirts, and then they wore a flannel shirt on top of it. With no dress code now to go to planes and games, guys kind of wear everything, and Justin is as casual as they get. But he loves his flannel. I saw Dalibor Dvorsky. I said, you guys look good in flannel. He says, I've never worn this before. I might actually get some more of it. It's kind of comfortable. I said, yeah, it's like wearing a soft blanket. And then I said to him, well, they don't have flannel in Slovakia? He says, well, not really. And then he looks down and he says, but then again, I'm not at home in the winter very much anymore either. But he said, if it's good enough, and they, of course, Justin Faulk, the nickname from the players is Flack. He goes, if it's good enough for Flack, it's good enough for me. So a neat moment, and neat for the young guys to see him do it. He told me that the first teammate that he ever saw play 1,000 games was Alexander Steen. And then he's seen it now with Letty. He's seen it with Shen. He saw 1,500 with Ryan Suter. And now he gets to 1,000, and he talked about it was great to be able to celebrate it with his teammates.
Wow, that's special. That was a great moment. I loved hearing that on the broadcast. Well, he's Chris Kerber. I'm Amy Mark Scores. And coming up next, we've got Kerb's partner in crime, Joey Vitale. He's going to break down the game for us with Joey's X's and O's. Welcome back to Offside Hockey. I'm Amy Mark Scores, and over in that 5-star hotel room is Chris Kerber.
It's a nice hotel room.
Okay.
We got the Tim Hortons tea bags I brought from Toronto.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Neutral.
I got
color.
a corner room too here in Philadelphia, so I kind of got a couple different views of the city there, so that works out.
I like the corner rooms.
Yeah. Couple corner, yeah. The corner rooms are good. All right, listen. Every week now we're bringing you Joe Vitale. We're gonna have him on, just helping us break some things down. But not only is he breaking things down, he's diagramming things. We're taking you deeper into the game. We want to make sure that you understand some of the X's and O's, why things happen the way they do. And let's get straight to Joe Vitale's segment of the week.
All right, Curbs and Amy, on school time today, we're talking passing through bodies. Coaches sometimes refer to defenders. Remember, it's Swiss cheese. They're not a block of Parmesan, meaning defenders have holes. Look for gaps. When you're talking about a defender, if I'm defending the screen's a player behind me, and I'm here. Old school thinking, you should think, well, that screen is covered. My guy is covered. I can't pass through this defender. Not so fast. Think again. The way the game has really trended, and this is where you see the most elite passers in the league, they say, that screen behind me, they're not covered, right? There's holes right here under my stick. There's holes between my legs. There's holes over my blade. The best passers find holes, they find gaps. Oskar Sundqvist for the St. Louis Blues, to me, is very underrated when it comes to this skill, and we're going to see a couple clips right here. This was, of course, in the LA Kings game, and you're going to see this pass right here. I'm going to stop it for a second. It's really hard to see the stick of Kevin Fiala, but Sundqvist has got the puck right here. You're going to see him hit Broberg in stride with speed. Fiala's stick is right here. Again, by most standards, old standards, Philip Broberg is covered. Don't pass it to him. Wrong. Watch what Oskar Sundqvist does right here as I clear the screen. I'm going to go nice and slow here. He's going to put it right behind the heel, right there, right behind the heel of Kevin Fiala, of course, and then you're going to see Philip Broberg is going to come in with a terrific move. Nice little wraparound. He's had this goal here a couple times in St. Louis so far, but you're going to see a really good look at it right here. I'm going to try to pause it right about there. It's a little bit behind, but once again, you're going to see the stick of Fiala's right there, and then Philip Broberg's on the bottom of your screen. He passes it right beneath the heel, right here. Play it out. One more look at it here. Actually, we have two more looks at it. It's such a beautiful goal. We're going to see it from the other angle. Just a really good sell of Broberg and a really nice tuck and wrap around. Keeps the inside edges going. That was a big goal in that Mammoth game. Now here we go to the next one. You're going to see an entry right here. Oskar Sundqvist is going to put it through two defenders underneath the blade and find Nathan Walker. We're going to get one more look at it right here. I'm going to pause it right about there. Again, keep an eye on a couple things. Oscar Sundqvist, number one, his eyes are looking this way. I know it's hard to see in the screen, but he's looking that way. He's looking north. So number one, it's a no-look pass. That's deception. Your eyes are here, you pass there, right? Can really throw defenders and goaltenders off. But the most important thing, and this is what I want to highlight in these clips, here's a stick of a mammoth defender, stick of a mammoth defender. There's 12 inches of blade, 12 inches of blade, 12 inches of blade. There is nowhere for that puck to be seen, right? There's no way for that pass to get across the middle. Again, think again, as these players right now, and Oscar Sundqvist is one of the best of them. Robert Thomas is probably the best on the Blues team at finding those little gaps, finding those little holes, puts it right underneath the stick of Marino, and then you're going to see Nathan Walker with an absolute beauty and a tap-in. And anytime, Curbs and I know this, Amy, anytime you can make this guy smile, this guy, with the beautiful grill and teeth of Oscar Sundqvist, that makes me happy. That makes St. Louis Blues fans happy, and I know it makes both of you happy as well. Amy, Curbs, back to you.
Well, how about that? I mean, I guess first thing that we should recognize is that Oscar Sundqvist is one of the team leaders in assists.
Yeah.
You know, no one's really running away with it. He's right behind Robert Thomas. I think it's 8 helpers. Still looking for that goal, but Sundqvist has had a terrific season. Thought about even making him a star. For the week because of his consistent play.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily. Now, I know he didn't like the games that led up to him being scratched. I didn't necessarily think that he was one of the ones that should have been that deserved it, but he did sit out a couple games. But Joe's right. I mean, just the ability to pass that through. I think he's having one of his best seasons we've seen when it comes to that. He's such a smart hockey player.
Yeah, and that skill and how important that is. I hate to bring up Tom Brady. I apologize to everybody. But when talking about what set Tom Brady apart, old TB, what set him apart, it's not so much that he could always hit seams or hit holes that other guys couldn't. It was that he saw them in the first place. When, again, you can be a playmaker who has 2 options. The elite playmakers see 4 or 5. So that skill that Oscar Sundqvist has, you can't underestimate that. And how that really is elite playmaking, you see it with guys like Connor McDavid. The way they're able to find seams or passing lanes that I never would have thought was a passing lane.
Well, Tom Brady knew those passing lanes were there because his coaching staff cheated.
That's right. Well,
okay. And then they deflated the ball so he could
trying.
have a grip to do it. Here's the one thing we know. We know Oscar isn't cheating. That's for sure. But no, it's a series. And now that you've watched that, and the whole idea behind doing that segment with Joe is now when you watch that, watch the way Robert Thomas passes the puck. We're going to see with Dalibor Dvorsky coming up here in the next segment or two. Just watch how some of those passes go. Watch where they go. It's not always open ice. It's finding seams through guys that makes a big difference. Okay. Blues are off on a 10-game or a 5-game, 10-day road trip. They lose in Toronto in overtime. There's a lot of different Blues topics to get to, including that guy that just darted one into the back of the net, Dalibor Dvorsky. All 3 of his goals have come on the power play. We'll get into that next as we go deeper into the St. Louis Blues on Offside Hockey.
Chris Kerber, Amy Markscores with you here on Offside Hockey. And Curbs, let's jump into a little bit more Blues discussion. There's a lot to talk about with this team, but one thing that's really stood out to me and I think is a huge point of hope for the team, for Blues fans, obviously it's critical to their success, and that is that goalies Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer are starting to get back to what we know they can be.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic here because, Amy, like the rest of the team, I think in the month of October, they weren't as good as they needed to be. They weren't very good. Now, goaltending is such a unique thing. It can put you over the top like we saw Jordan Binnington do in 2019, like we've seen him do in that second-round series against Colorado, like you saw him do in the Four Nations last year. But the reality of it is the saves that they were making, like they were making last night, they weren't making enough of them through the month of October. A much better save percentage here in the month of November, and that's one of the reasons that you've seen the Blues have some success. Now, it's plays like that one, like that save you just saw, It's plays like that where you'd see the goalie make the save and then somebody would be coming down and just flip it over the sprawled goaltender. So what's helping is that the team has definitely picked up the defensive play in front of them. But that said, the goaltenders themselves have been better, and that's a big up. You can't win in this game without your goaltenders making the key saves. And, you know, even more recently, you look and like they're playing better, but 4 goals are going in. And that now you're seeing is the result, less about their play and more about the all-around team play.
Yeah, and we know what Jordan Binnington's ceiling is. We saw him carry the St. Louis Blues to the Stanley Cup victory. We saw him carry Team Canada to the victory of the Four Nations Cup. And first and foremost, you got to make saves. But I had a fun chat with Joel Hofer about his stick handling ability. You know, he didn't play goalie, he didn't throw on the pads till he was 10 years old. Before that, he was a forward, then they moved him down to a defenseman, and finally he took his place between the pipes. But he said he loved being a skater, and that's why he likes to play the puck as much as possible, because he gets to feel like a skater.
Well, and they're both good at actually,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I think the Blues have the 2 best goaltenders in the National Hockey League when it comes to playing the puck. And they're like an extra defenseman back there, without a shred of doubt. Now, we've seen the Blues change that defensive system around a little bit, where even with Binnington, I've noticed the forwards are coming, or the defense are coming back down. I think that's actually crossed up Binnington and Jordan a little bit there. I think he's used to slinging it up towards that hash marks, and there's, you know, to make sure that they're getting the coverage they need, because they haven't been very good. That's changed some of it, but when it comes to their ability to stop the puck behind the net, when it comes to their ability then to fire it, and we saw last week, we saw Hofer try for an empty net. Oh, yeah, how great would that have been? It would have been spectacular. Instead, the Blues lose the game in overtime. But it would have been pretty cool to see him do it. But yeah, the goalies are really, really good when it comes to playing the puck.
Hey, speaking of slinging it, Dalibor Dvorsky on the power play. 3 power play goals for the St. Louis Blues. All of his goals this season have come on the power play. I believe, if I'm correct, he is trailing only the Islanders' superstar rookie Matthew Schaefer in power play goals for rookies. Schaefer is sitting on 4 power play goals. Dvorsky, a heck of a shot this kid has.
Well, we've seen him score. I mean, look at these goals that you're watching right now. All right, the first 2 are slap shot lasers in. And then the third one, you know, ends up going in off of the stick of the Seattle defenseman right there. Okay, so couple of things here. One, I mean, stats are stats. This tells you kind of how rare it is. The last time a St. Louis Blue had their first 3 goals of their career with the team be power play goals was Peter Sena back in 2003. Before that, you've got to go to both Bruce Affleck and to Joe Micheletti. Both of them had that scenario there. So, you know, it's kind of that's the unique thing in sports when you get to see stuff that maybe you haven't seen in quite a while. He's got the shot. Now, the one thing that I love about what we saw with these goals, Amy, and you know this, you've talked to Al McInnes, you've talked to others, one-timers. Yeah. One time the puck. But to do that, you've got to have the pass there. Robert Thomas's pass across to Dvorsky in Toronto last night was fantastic. The goalie had no chance because Dvorsky got the shot away so quick because Thomas put the puck in the right spot. But you got to be able to one-time the puck, and that is exactly what Dalibor Dvorsky is doing. He's good at it, and that hasn't started to get into his puck-moving, play-making ability. Same thing with Jimmy Snuggerud. Can wire it. Same thing we're seeing with Justin Carbonneau and the highlights from his junior team. They're wiring it. Like I got out of that game against Toronto, and I am fired up for the youth and the offensive ability that we're going to see grow with this hockey team. And yeah, there's going to need some patience. Dalibor does not have an even strength point yet, but keep producing on the power play. They'll keep you in the NHL.
Curbs, not sugarcoating it. This isn't the start the Blues wanted on this season, but you've said it time and time again on the broadcasts. You look at trends. You focus on trends. Where are we moving? Which direction? And right now, the Blues have points in 7 of their last 10 games, and every point matters.
So this is a good trend for the right reasons because you're picking up points, and yes, every point matters. The flip side of that is every point matters, but you're leaving some on the table. Yeah. I mean, check out the overtime scenario that the Blues are in. And that one's just sick. And you got to win that puck battle along the wall there. You have 3 guys going in around it. You're like, okay. And I even commented on the broadcast, look at that, 3 guys all around it. Okay, there's a shot from Brandon Saad. They come right down the middle of the ice. And the Blues, on the flip side, their top scorers like Jordan Kyrou, they're not getting it done. On the shootouts, the saves are getting made. Dylan Holloway comes in on the shootout. The Blues are 0 for 6 in shootouts this season. 0 for 6. So they're leaving points on the table. So which trend do you like? Well, I'm going to go with the trend that says you're still picking up points on this one. So you look, Amy, you look at the middle of this week. We're on the 20th of November. You are 5 points out of a playoff spot here, with 62 games to go. There's a lot of time to make up some ground because nobody else is really like Colorado is. But in terms of the middle of the pack, you got a chance to stay with them, but you got to pick up those extra points. Points in 7 of 10, really good. Get that extra point, and it becomes really great.
Well, somebody might help them do that because number 63, Jake Neighbors, he went on the trip. He's on this long road trip with the Blues. He has been skating. Curb's reason would have it that there's a chance that Neighbors returns to play on this trip.
He is on the trip. He skated with the team today. Looks like they ran through the same lines at practice today that they had in the game last night. But Jake is on the trip, did the extra skating. And yes, I do expect him to be back at some point in time. You keep hearing the New York Islanders as a possibility. No, that's not coming officially from the team. That's coming from just kind of the way you pick at information the way we do. But definitely somewhere between the Islanders on Saturday or the Rangers on Monday, I think we'll see Jake Neighbors back in the lineup, and that's going to be big. Now, question is what do you do when he does come back? If Pavel Buchnevich is still struggling, do you sit him? I don't think the Blues want to sit him. That's very clear to me. So who ends up coming out of the lineup? Is it a Joseph, who we were talking about earlier, that doesn't deserve to come out of the lineup? Is it a Walker that doesn't? Alexei Toropchenko's game has picked up the last couple. I'd really like to see him chip in with some more goals and here and there and pick up some the odd point on that fourth line. The good news is, and let's hope this happens, Amy, let's hope the Blues end up in enough health, which means we don't lose anybody tomorrow night in Philadelphia, that when that decision comes, that decision is being made. And by the way, I think, let's double check, but I think they've got to make a roster move to be able to bring him back on too. Now that could mean, especially with us being in the Northeast here, sending Hunter Skinner down because you're just a 3-hour drive from that Springfield area. So you're good when you can get a defenseman up here real quick. You don't have to do, or at that point, if nobody else is hurt, at that point, then somebody would have to go on waivers, and that then becomes another interesting story. So we'll keep an eye on this over the next few days.
A relationship I've loved to watch so far this season is that of Robert Thomas and Jimmy Snuggerud, and the skill and talent that these guys have, the mentorship that Thomas brings to Snuggerud. I talked to both of those guys the other day about each other. And, Jimmy Snuggerud said he never wanted to be a one-dimensional player. He was afraid of being a one-dimensional player because we've talked a lot about his shot. But that's why he's focused so much on his passing and his playmaking ability. And who better to turn to than number 18, Robert Thomas? And he does. He's asked him questions about different situations in the offensive zone, about playmaking ability, about creating chances, even when it may not look on the surface like there is an opportunity there. And I love seeing these guys play together.
You know what? And I think it's a duo that you have to keep together. I know that they're going to keep looking for different combinations. Jimmy Snuggerud can shoot. And they've told Jimmy, you are the shooter on that line. We need you to get into a shooting position. We need you to shoot the puck. The thing of it is, I'm telling you, Amy, I keep saying this. His passing, his anticipation. He made a pass out of the corner to Colton Parayko last night in Toronto. The vision that he had, but that pass was planned before the player that sent him the puck even sent it to him. His passing's that good. So Thomas has to be ready to get it back. Jimmy has to be ready to get that puck from Robert Thomas. Look, again, you got Corvino coming up. You got what Dvorsky can do. Dvorsky's the centerman. Holy cow. You get Robert Thomas feeding the puck to a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud that can shoot the puck like that, and you have something special. So let's hope that they just keep those guys together and say, keep figuring it out. Because you know the thing that they're starting to count on, Amy, is Snuggerud's defense. Jim Montgomery said that Snuggerud's defense is underrated. He said that to the national media team when we got to Washington. And when you can count on him defensively, you can play him in top 6 minutes.
Well, speaking of young guns, it is a young man's league out there. Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, Matthew Schaefer. Wow, the young guys are killing it. All that and more as we go around the NHL next. Welcome back to Offside Hockey. Chris Kerber, Amy Markscore is with you. And Kerbs, as we mentioned earlier, it's a young man's league. And last night, Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini both netted hat tricks for their teams. It feels like nothing can stop these guys right now.
Okay, look at that goal right there. Nothing worse than when the goalie looks behind him and goes, "Did I get it?" No. So a couple of things. Number one, Connor Bedard. Once again, first overall pick. Things start off a little bit slow. Nathan McKinnon had the same thing happen to him too, right? And they're like, well, what kind of player do we have? Well, there weren't a lot of great players around him either. The coaching situations were really not good in Chicago. And one Chicago player said earlier in the year, when they asked about their current coach, they said, we finally have an NHL head coach in Blashill. And you can see in their play that they have. Connor Bedard's confidence is picked up. Here's the thing about Bedard for me, Amy. He's playing is he playing his way into the mind of Doug Armstrong when it comes to Team Canada for the Olympics? And of course, remember, 4 nations. Bedard didn't play in it. Okay, Thomas didn't play in it. So, there's a couple guys that may not be trending in the right direction for Robert Thomas. He's got to really get things going here to do that. On the flip side, Macklin Celebrini, oh my goodness. Like, this guy's just been great. Remember, his first game in the NHL, like Connor McDavid's, was against the St. Louis Blues, right? And he just lit the Blues up in that game, and he's done it ever since. He has come in and he has changed the vibe there in San Jose. He's fantastic. Think about this. I think Celebrini joins Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky as the only 3 teenagers to get 30 points in their first 20 games of a season.
Wow.
So anytime you can put yourself in that kind of a mix with those guys, you're off to a really good start. But yeah, these young guys are there. And this, man, I'm going to end up in a tangent here, but this is why what the Blues are trying to do is so hard. Yeah. Right? Celebrini and Bedard, we're talking first overall picks. Schaefer, we're talking first overall picks. We're going to see him on Saturday. The Blues are trying to do this with 20th picks, 26th picks, 17th pick, Dvorsky a 10th pick. Not the first. And it is hard to do what the Blues are doing when you see these young kids have success.
Schaefer, by the way, at 18 years old and 70 days, the youngest player to score an overtime winning goal. And I believe he leads all defensemen in goals with 7, ahead of Cale Makar's 6 goals. But hey, heading over to the Colorado Avalanche and Patrick Waugh, the Hall of Fame goaltender, he had a response to a hit by Rantanen.
Yeah, this hit by Rantanen. Okay, now Rantanen is not going to receive it looks like as dirty and cheap a hit as you can get. Rantanen is apparently not going to receive supplemental discipline from the league because they say the contact that Mayfield made with him, that Scott Mayfield made with him, kind of led to that hit. Well, Patrick Waugh lost his marbles. And, man, I think the last time we saw 2 coaches bark on a bench, right? The last time we saw, and Glenn Gulletson with Dallas wasn't barking back. You can see Rantanen standing there and Patrick Waugh, that same fire that made him a Hall of Fame goaltender. And he basically said, you won't make it out of the game in New York. I mean, that's okay. That slap shot level, he'll get talked to by the National Hockey League. But my goodness, how about that fire from Patrick Waugh?
Yeah, I mean, You think of when in some of the old school hockey games when he's throwing haymakers and the fights that we had when you have Hall of Famers throwing haymakers, but not important or relevant to anything other than one time when I was playing hockey at the Hardee's ice rink in Chesterfield. The teams were skating. The Blues had their practice. Their opposing teams always skate there. I was walking out with my bag and sticks in hand, and Patrick Waugh saw that I had my hands full and opened the door and held it open for like a teenage hockey player, which will always stand out in my mind no matter how much he yells or threw his haymakers.
You know what, Amy? Here's the thing, too, about Patrick. This is the thing about the Islanders. I'm looking really forward to this game and seeing what they're doing. We saw some of that instilled. I love the fact that Lou Lamoriello, I know he's still there, and I know he's doing some consulting with ownership, but they're letting Matthew Darche kind of be the general manager, the guy that came up from the assistant general manager from Tampa. And you know what we're seeing? Because of that, if you watch Matthew Schaefer on Spittin' Chicklets, or you watch some of the interviews, you're seeing personality. It's the first time in 30 years you're allowed to see personality of players from a team that Lou Lamoriello has run. Now, again, Lou is out. He's not running the team, but it's about time that we're able to see that. And Matthew Schaefer getting to see his personality is fantastic. It's now also allowing Patrick Waugh personality to come out a little bit more, and it's making a difference for the Islanders.
Meanwhile, at Madison Square Gardens, an experiment in color saturation as the benches clears. And look at these jerseys, as someone said on Twitter, hang it in the Louvre. Hang it in the Louvre, these pictures of these jerseys.
Okay, this sprawl breaks out, okay, because one of the Detroit Red Wings players, after the buzzer sounds, shoots the puck into the empty net. The Rangers have had a tough year without a shred of doubt, okay? So who goes after him? It's Jonathan Quick, a two-time Stanley Cup champion, a future Hall of Famer, whenever his career is done, and he's bringing it to the battle. Some people are going to say, who cares? The end of the game, move on from it. Well, that's hockey. I love that kind of fire. A little respect, whatever. He didn't like what he saw. The flip side, New Day sports people are going to go, if you don't like it, you should have beat them in regulation and go with it anyway. So I love the after the game brawl. I love the fact that Detroit shot it in the net because I love villains. I love the fact that Jonathan Quick went at it. And I also love the fact that they went two dark jerseys in that game. That was fantastic. Amy, that's right up your alley of a topic right there.
Oh my gosh, like I said, hang it in the Louvre. I have a still of that pylon with the red and blue jerseys. Hey, but speaking of sweaters, we do want to look at that Winter Classic sweater, the big reveal.
Yeah, so remember, the Winter Classic is going to be in Miami this year. Okay, so there's Reinhart kind of wearing the leaf bag pants, right, to go with the shirt. So that's I don't know that there's anything great about the Florida Panthers one. That's just kind of looked like one of their old jerseys to me, the New York one. It's a New York one.
It's retro.
I don't know. Amy,
kind of retro vibe, though.
I got it. Of all the Winter Classics jerseys that we have seen over all the years of the Winter Classic, these two are like the most normal to me. And I'm not sure, and I don't know that's good. I don't mind them. I don't hate them. I'm like, yeah, okay. But I'm not going, all right, those are sweet. I didn't say that when I saw this.
Oh, well, I thought
Did
they
you?
were kind of cool. I liked the retro vibe, but
all right, well then say that.
Maybe I'm easily pleased. Maybe I'm a simpleton when it comes to this type of thing. Someone who's not a simpleton, though, Curtis Joseph. Man, life as a Blue. I had so much fun watching this segment with Cujo. We'll talk more in just a bit.
All right, hey, welcome back into Offside Hockey. The St. Louis Blues have been fantastic for a long time with the content that they put out there. Blue Note Productions is winning Emmys. It's been fantastic. There's Vice President of Content, that's Mike Caruso, who's been with the team forever, for a long, long time. Started as an intern. This is the kind of historical content that helps make him great because he came up with this idea. And if you haven't gone to the Blues YouTube channel and watched this series, Life as a Blue, it's fantastic. Here's a snippet of what the one they just dropped with Curtis Joseph is like.
But in order for your mess to be one of the greats, you have to play up to that ability to So I kept it simple too, so you could see it. It's not too detailed. And I feel like each mask represents me and who I was on the ice, a fierce competitor. And when I got off, I was hopefully a good husband, a good father, and a nice guy to the fans. But when I stepped on the ice, that's who I was. One thing I've kept as souvenirs, I've given away a lot of equipment, but I've kept all my masks.
Well, he has kept all his masks, and he thought that he had lost the Blues mask, the famous one with the Blues. They gave it back to him. They found it. They gave it back to him when he was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame last year, Amy. But you got to sit down and watch this. I know if you have fans haven't done it, he talks about the fight with Chevalier. And again, if you haven't read Curtis Joseph's book, Cujo, you learn about his past and his history and why he is the way he is. This one is and there's been some good ones. This one is by far my favorite, Life as a Blue. And you can click on the Blues YouTube channel to watch it, but it's worth your time.
Oh, really special. And I think worth mentioning that Cujo is Jordan Binnington's, one of his hockey idols, and that Jordan Binnington had that mask made that paid tribute to the Cujo mask. And to me, with St. Louis Blues history and Blues fans being so intense, so devoted generation after generation, to know that the current goalie for the Blues gets it and has that, has had that tribute to Curtis Joseph, I think is really special.
Oh, yeah, and every time Jordan Binnington wears those blue pads out there, that is exactly what who knows, maybe even one time Binnington will make a save and we'll say Joseph made the save just for the heck of it. Hey, speaking of fan favorite, a real special announcement today from the St. Louis Blues. We'll tell you about it when we finish up on Offside Hockey.
Welcome back to Offside Hockey. That's Chris Kerber. I'm Amy Markscores. And Kerbs, the Blues made a special announcement today.
Yeah, they did. You know what? They started the Hall of Fame 3 years ago, Amy, the Blues Hall of Fame. We've had some great classes, some great ceremonies. The upcoming ceremony is going to be in January, so look for that. There's a game, there's a ceremony at the MAC that you can get tickets to. It's fantastic. Part of that, though, is a True Blue Award, and it's an award handed out for dedication to the St. Louis Blues organization. Kind of how do you recognize what somebody has done off the ice in that sense? And they announced that Kelly Chase is going to be this year's recipient. Now, look, you can make the case, too, that with Tony Twist, those two probably belong in the actual Hall of Fame part together, and that still may happen. But from a standpoint of just being honored, what he then did for 18 years as a broadcaster, what he did with the St. Louis Blues special hockey program, what he's done in the community, and what he's always done in the community and for others while representing the Blues and wearing the blue note on his chest and in his heart, it's a special one. So this is a really special one for me. Obviously, haven't been able to work with him for 18 years and build that relationship with him, Amy, but with the battle, especially that he's dealing with his cancer battles and all that, and you still see the toughness, and he's still doing the Ice Guardians podcast, and he's still at games, and the way people respond to him. This was a no-brainer of an award to honor Kelly Chase at this upcoming Hall of Fame ceremony. Yeah,
it's so special. You mentioned the Ice Guardians podcast. The stories on that podcast make you feel like you're in the locker room or you were on the team. They're the greatest stories. But just going back to Kelly Chase as a player and a person, he encompasses what it means to be a St. Louis Blue. Just that blue-collar, passionate, I'll get mad as hell type player.
Yeah, he did it all. He fights it all, and he's still fighting the good fight, and we're there with him. So that'll be the special thing. Well, that'll wrap up this week's edition of Offside Hockey. We come your way every Wednesday night. Have a great week of Blues hockey, and we'll see you next week.
Offside Hockey, driven by Weber Automotive Group.
This broadcast from the Matrix Midwest Studios is brought to you by New Ground International. It's time to plan, design, and build your future. Start today at newground.com.